Okay, today we'll be learning about a different formula. So we had y equals mx plus b from earlier this week, and then now we've got something called point slope form. So if you could just circle that point slope form right there. So the only things that we're plugging in for is our m is still going to be our slope, and then in this formula we've got x1 and y1. And they are ordered pairs. So you use point slope form when you're given a point and a slope to find an equation. So the only numbers we're plugging in for will be the m and then the x1 and the y1. The regular x and y just stay x's and y's, just like when we have y equals mx plus b. Those x's and y's stay x's and y's. So what we want to do here is we want to write this in point slope form. And so again, I'm going to start with my formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so I go y minus my y coordinate, which is 5, is equal to my slope, which is 2/3, times x minus my x coordinate, which is 3. And so to graph it, the easiest way is just to get it to slope-intercept form, so get my y by itself. And so what I can do is I can distribute into my parentheses, go y minus 5 is equal to 2/3 x minus, and when I do 2/3 times 3, I get 2. Then I can add my 5 over to the other side and get y is equal to 2/3 x plus 3. And then I can again go ahead and graph it on my graphing calculator just by hitting the y equals button and going to my table. And so when I do that, I can graph some ordered pairs. So I'm just looking for whole number ordered pairs because this one I have some decimals. So I've got -6, -1. I've got -3, 1, 0, 3, and 3, 5. So when I plot those, 3, 5, 0, 3, -3, 1, and 6, -1. So my graph ends up looking something like that. Same thing with the second one. I'm going to plug it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I get y minus my y coordinate. So this one's a little tricky, so just minus 2. So it's y minus -2. My slope, which is -2, x minus my x coordinate, which is 1. So the thing that I want to make sure is that minus a negative is the same thing as plus a positive, so I can just change that to y plus 2. Then I can go ahead and distribute just like we did and get my y by itself. So y plus 2 is equal to -2x plus 2. Then I can subtract the 2 to the other side and get y is equal to -2x. You could put plus 0 if you wanted, but you don't have to. So when I do that, I've got all my ordered pairs. Again, I can graph it. I will get these ordered pairs. And my graph looking something like that. Again, I know that my y-intercept is 0, so it means my graph crosses the x-axis right there at 0, and then my slope is -2, which means that I'm going down 2 and right 1. So what we can do here is, given 2 points, we can write an equation in point slope form. So what I want to do is, kind of the steps that I'll go through, is the first thing I want to do is find my slope using the slope formula. And then I want to plug in slope and just one of our points into point slope form. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. My slope formula to find out what the slope is. So if I name this one 1 and this one 2, I'll go -2 minus 6 on the top. And then on the bottom I will do 1 minus -3. And so on the top, I end up with -8. On the bottom, I end up with 4. So that gives me -2 as my slope. And then the trick is I can choose either point. So in this case, just choose the one that you think is easiest. I'm going to choose this one because it has smaller numbers in it. So I'm going to go y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I go y minus my y coordinate, which is -2, is equal to my slope, which is -2, parentheses, x minus 1. And again, I want this to be y plus 2 is equal to -2, parentheses, x minus 1. I can distribute the -2 to get -2x plus 2, and then subtract the 2 over to the other side to get y is equal to -2x. Again, you could put plus 0 if you wanted, or you don't have to. That'll be my equation in slope-intercept form. And then the second example, I can do the same thing. This is 1, this is 2. And so I can go again start with my slope formula, so 1 minus 4 over -2 minus 3. And so when I do that, I get, let's see, -3 over -5. So it's 3/5, which is the same thing as 0.6. And then I can choose a point. I'm going to go ahead and choose a bottom point. And then I go y minus 1 equals my 0.6 times x minus -2. Again, the first thing I want to do is change that to a plus 2 since it's minus a negative. Then I can distribute. Y minus 1 is equal to 0.6x plus 2 times 0.6. Get 1.2. Then I can add my 1 over to the other side, get y is equal to 0.6x plus 2.2. Again, I generally prefer to have my slope as a fraction rather than a decimal, so I kind of prefer it to be this way. Remember to change a decimal into a fraction on your graphing calculator. You can just do math and then hit enter twice, and that'll turn a decimal into a fraction. Remember that if you have a repeating decimal, you don't want to round it. You want to keep it as that fraction rather than changing it, rounding it in your answer.